A question I often get is people wonder if God cares about their problems, and I always didn't quite understand it, but I think it makes logical sense. Because the longer you're on this planet and the more experience you have, the more trivial other people's smaller problems seem. And I know that sounds terrible, but think of it this way. If a baby loses its pacifier, an 8-year-old wonders, like, why is this such a big deal? If an 8-year-old loses its Matchbox car, a teenager wonders why that's a big deal. A 20-something looks at the teenager and says, why is it a big deal that your friend isn't texting you for an afternoon? So logically, the more experience you have on this planet, you realize the sun comes up tomorrow and this isn't the end of the world. So if God has been around for eternity, and if God's ways are truly higher than our ways, as high as the heavens are above the earth, it makes sense that He shouldn't actually care what's happening in our life. That's not the case, though. There's a story in the book of Luke. There's a woman who's a widow, and Jesus is approaching the village, and this is what it says. As he approached the town gate, a dead person was being carried out. The dead person was not her husband. It says the only son of his mother. And when the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her, and he said, "Don't cry." Logically, this does not make sense, but our conclusion is very simple. Death is a big deal to people. I think a 5-year-old looking at a 2-year-old, if suffering loss, is going to recognize death is a big deal. A 50-year-old looking at a 20-something is going to know death's a big deal. And you can know if you're suffering loss right now, death's a big deal to you, but it's also a big deal to our God. The reality is this: if you're mourning loss, as I've mourned loss and death, after about a month, it seems like no one cares. It seems like the cards stop coming, people stop asking, they've got their own problems to worry about, and you ask yourself, does anyone care? The question you don't have to ask yourself is, does my God care? Because not only is death a big deal to you, death is a big deal to our God. So much so, He stepped into our world, He lived and He died to conquer death, so that He can stand before you as you mourn and say, this is a big deal to me, but don't cry. My resurrection takes care of it.